Welcome to a new episode of the Write and Inspire Rawcast. In this episode, I'm taking you on my creativity walk on a pretty windy morning here in January at the Costa Blanca in Spain, where I live. So if you hear the wind, if you hear my feet on the gravel, then that's because you're out on a walk with me. And if you would like to make this more real, then grab your headphones, let's go on a walk together and listen to me while you're out on a walk. Today I want to talk about the differences between men and women regarding skill acquisition and execution, and also how your height and weight play into mountain biking. In case you're new here, I'm Roxy. I travel the world to mentally and physically coach riders of all abilities, beginner to Olympic pro, and I also train and certify mountain bike skills instructors for the BICP, and that's the Bike Instructor Certification Program. Skills coaching has been my full-time career it's been over 14 years, I still can't believe it. And I've coached thousands and thousands of riders in these years. And I myself have taken over 22 or 23 courses to constantly improve my own teaching, to improve my in-depth knowledge about how learning actually works. And I've taken 2 degrees in mental training and psychology. And I basically soak up everything about neuroscience and the biomechanics of learning, not only related to mountain bike skills, just to motor skills in general, because I'm super passionate about it. I'm super passionate because I believe that mountain biking does not need to be dangerous. And if my knowledge and experience contribute to making mountain biking a little safer for you, then I'm happy. And if my podcast allows you to listen to your soul a little more and maybe tell your ego to shush a little more often, then I'm a very, very happy Roxy. When I started learning mountain bike skills and when I started coaching, I have to be honest, I was pretty frustrated with how skills were being taught. And I have to say, I was extremely frustrated with my own progress. And I honestly have to say, I learned skills pretty slowly and, much slower than my clients are learning them today. And some skills just seemed absolutely impossible for me. And 2 of these skills were the manual and the bunny hop. Now, in retrospect, I know they really were impossible to learn for me back then, and not because they're so super complex, but because the movement patterns I was taught, they were just unrealistic for me as a petite rider, and even more so as a petite woman. Nowadays, I can actually perform these moves, and I've learned to perform them pretty well. I want to share how I had success and how actually you can learn them too. Because I know there are so many women out there, so many petite riders out there frustrated with these moves and other moves. So especially if you're a petite rider, or if you know a petite rider struggling with these moves, like bunny hops, manuals, and similar moves, the struggle is real, but we can get there. So after having spent years failing to learn these moves and failing to level up my certifications as a coach, I was literally about to stop mountain biking. But then I remembered a quote, and I don't know who this quote is from, but it goes like this. Failure is not falling down, but refusing to get up. And then I remembered another quote. It's one of my favorite quotes, and it still fuels me in many situations today. This one I know is from Albert Einstein, and it goes like this. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So I was like, if I stop mountain biking now, then I'm refusing to get up. So I'm failing. And if I'm trying the same thing over and over and I'm not getting different results, I'm not improving. So I must be doing the wrong things. Why am I expecting different results if I keep doing the same things? And how can I now start doing the right things if I'm probably doing the wrong things? And that's when I started looking into finding my own coaching methods, not only for myself, but also because I worked with other shorter riders who also struggled. And I looked into biomechanics, I started looking into physics, into neuroscience, looking at other disciplines, and I started doing something that's called reverse engineering. So I reverse engineered bunny hops and manuals by analyzing different riders of different heights and different disciplines, and then looked at what they all had in common in their techniques. So as in, what are they all doing the same way? And then I looked at what they're not doing the same way and how these tweaks related to their height, to their strength, and to their physique, and also to their bike type. And I found out that yes, wheel size, height, strength, weight, and also gender influence how you need to execute skills. So if you're struggling with bunny hops, manuals, or similar, and if you're a petite rider, let me tell you, listen to this entire episode. In this episode, many things will become clear to you. Or if you're a coach struggling to progress shorter riders, or weaker riders, or older riders, or women on 29-inch bikes, I believe you will profit from listening to this episode fully. Generally, when it comes to teaching or learning motor skills, to do so efficiently, we need to do two things. One, we need to break down the movement into chunks, so into partial movements that make up the whole skill. And then we need to build a safe progression to practice these partial movements until we can then combine these partial movements into the big final move. And two, we need to analyze each of these partial movements according to 4 categories. You can remember the acronym TED, T-E-D-D, and they stand for timing, extent, direction, and dynamics. So you need to look at the timing of the move, like when do I do a movement, the extent, so how large is the movement, the direction of it, as in where am I moving the body, into which direction am I moving the limbs, and then there's the dynamics. So for example, is this a subtle move or is it a forceful movement, and how much strength is actually involved? Let me give you an example for the bunny hop and make this relatable and actionable for you. In a bunny hop, you'll be, step 1, breaking down the movement into partial moves. So there's a front wheel lift, then there's the springing up motion, exactly in the right second, because if you do it too late, you'll loop out. If you do it too early, then you'll just flop over, so the front will just fall down. Then there's the lifting of the bike to level it out in the air. And then you need to bend the legs for the rear wheel to lift. And then you extend your arms and legs to land. So there's a manual front wheel lift, the launch phase, the leveling out, and no, I know many people think this, but you do not need an active rear wheel lift with a scooping motion to lift the rear wheel. I know this may be new to you, so if it is, I have a video below with proof and analysis and details. Then you'll understand why you don't need a active rear wheel lift scooping motion, because this will just cause you to flop over. And then there's part 2, which is the TED, T-E-D-D, timing, extent, direction, and dynamics for each of these partial movements. That's what a coach will do with you when they're coaching you professionally to reach a bunny hop. So you need those step-by-step drills, and then analyzing, coaching you, he'll look at the TEDD, timing, extent, direction, and dynamics for each of these partial movements. And if it's a pro coach, he will actually just give you 1 cue per movement. For example, extend your arms more, or perform the launch phase earlier. And of course, he'll put it into words that you actually have actionable cues to know either physically or mentally what to work on next. And if we think of it, I mean, like really think of it, like let this sink in. TEDD, timing, extent, direction, dynamics for each of these partial movements. Isn't it like crystal clear that a petite rider will need much more extent? In other words, a petite rider will need to use more of his or her range of motion. A petite rider will need to extend his or her legs, whereas the exact same result will be reached by a taller rider without extending the legs or the arms fully. And also a weaker rider will probably need to use more dynamics, or need to use a different direction of the move, or a crisper timing. So of course, a shorter rider or a weaker rider will need to perform the move differently than a taller or a physically stronger rider. Isn't it crystal clear? To me, when I started analyzing it, I was like, well, of course, it has to be. And this is where, in my opinion, professional coaching and a lot of experience and, well, most of all, open-mindedness to constantly tweak the movements at coaching are important for your success. Because, our bikes are not one size fits all. So why should coaching cues be? So if you want to make real progress, you need to find solutions that work for you, for your height, your strength, your bike geometry, and your type of riding. So this brings me to a comparison of men versus women and how skills execution is different for men than it is for us women. Because men are usually taller and physically stronger, and women are usually shorter and physically weaker. So of course, women will struggle more with executing skills, and women will need an adaptation of the skills and its individual parts to reach the goal at hand. And gosh, I was so frustrated back then before I figured this out, because I was trying to perform moves that simply did not work for me because I'm petite, I'm not as strong as the guys who were teaching me the skills. And the curriculum for coaches back then, and to be very honest, most curriculums nowadays still are made by men. And the partial moves making up the skill are designed by and for taller, stronger men. And sometimes even taller, stronger men on smaller wheels. So, when these curriculums were developed, we were still on smaller wheels. So the movements have developed, the bikes have developed. And with these big wheels, especially women on 29-inch wheels, we cannot perform these moves, even if we try. And this is not sexism, or it's not me playing out the, we women need protection card or whatever. This is anatomy, physics, and biology. Because for us women, it can be pretty darn frustrating. And I want to give you an example for this. I got the following comment below one of my latest bunny hop videos. So if this method was so much better, shouldn't your bunny hop be a bit more impressive? And then I asked him if he knew a woman with a height of 158 centimeters, that's 5'1", who could pull off a higher bunny hop on a 29-inch enduro bike with 170 millimeters of travel. He replied, "Do you know anyone?" is not an argument, as if you want to say it wouldn't be possible as a small woman. For a coach, that would be a rather strange statement, to say the least. Well, yes, I am saying women are physically weaker, and the bike weighs comparatively more, and I don't have as long limbs, and that's not a strange statement. It's a fact. Newsflash. So if you look at world record performances and compare the best male race times to women's times, you will find huge differences. And it's no different in mountain biking. And in case you're like, whatever, women can perform the exact same as men, let me give you a mind-blowing example. At the UCI Enduro World Cup in Australia, the fastest male rider, which was Richard Roode, rode a time of 25 minutes and 52 seconds and a few milliseconds. And the fastest woman, Bex Barona, rode 29 minutes, 52 and 01. So you might be thinking, okay, well, that's only 4 minutes. That's not a lot. But with her result, so 29 minutes, 52 seconds, she would have placed 121st out of 122 men. So the fastest woman would have taken the second last place in the male category. To put it in the words of my lovely commenter, that's not very impressive, is it? So a total of 120 men were faster than the fastest woman in that race. And that's not because she didn't train hard enough or she has poor technique. It's simply because women have a different physique. Okay, let me give you a few more facts about this and why this is the case. One, women naturally have less quick strength and less absolute strength, which makes it harder for us to perform moves often called easy, quote unquote, by men. Two, women often have shorter levers, as in they have shorter arms and legs because they're usually shorter in height. This means they cannot accelerate the bike as easily as men, and they can't absorb the bike as well as men can, because they have a smaller range of motion, which in the bunny hop example I gave, it means of course I will not be able to hop as impressively as a guy with enormous strength and legs as long as, I don't know, the Eiffel Tower. Of course not, because I'm tiny. 3, a woman's bike as a proportion of the total weight consisting of rider plus bike weighs much more than it does for men. So let's say if my bike weighs 12 kilogram, which would be a really light bike, and I weigh 50 kilogram, for a man with 80 kilogram, which is also actually light for a man, but still, that would be as if he were riding a 19.2 kilogram bike. That is a very heavy bike. But in fact, if you look at it, men even ride more expensive, better equipped, and thus lighter bikes than their ladies. So I'm just saying. So I'm sure there's more, but I think you get the point that I'm not looking for excuses for us ladies, but that there are differences that need to be addressed. And these are all reasons why I've developed my own methodology, and I teach skills differently in my home training courses and in my life courses than I've ever been taught them. And that, I know this sounds like bragging, but it just fills me so much with joy and pure gratitude. Often my clients write emails saying, "Oh my God, thank you. I cannot believe how easy the bunny hop suddenly feels," or "I cannot believe that I finally found something that works. I've been struggling with this for so many years. I've taken so many clinics already, but it finally clicked with you because I adapt my skills." In my experience training many coaches, there are too many coaches out there simply regurgitating cues that work for many, but certainly not for most people, and probably, or maybe, not for you. So let me give you some hands-on examples for skills where light and petite riders struggle more. Example 1 is a sustained wheelie. During a wheelie, when we advance to modulating the brake, the rear brake, to sustain a longer wheelie, for us petite riders, it's much more challenging to modulate the brake. And that is because we have less weight leaning back against the force of the rear brake. So for a lighter rider, even a small amount of pressure on that brake lever, it just tends to slam down the front wheel. Whereas a heavy rider, he can engage the brake more powerfully, and there's just more room for error. Example 2 would be being short and riding a 29-inch bike or a 29-inch rear wheel, which is why I recommend Mullet, which is 29-inch front, 27.5-inch rear for shorter riders, or even full 27.5, or even if you're very short, 26-inch wheels. Because, for example, if my inseam length is 28-inch, which it is, and I'm on a 29er bike with a 29er rear wheel, and if I want to dismount to the rear, which is such an essential move, if you don't have this yet, check the link below this episode. Or, for example, I move my body rearwards during a manual, for example, or in a steep section, the bike moves forward, so I will be over my rear wheel. The chance of me buzzing my privates on the rear tire is super high. It's dangerous, and it is really crappy, to put it bluntly, because an emergency dismount could send me to hospital, as I can't reach the ground with my feet because I'm just sitting on that rear wheel. And that's why, as I said, converting a bike to a mullet is not marketing, it's a safety issue. And that's why I'm so grateful that my Lapierre bikes can be converted to mullet. Actually, note to self, never get on the bad side of my sponsor. So I really have to say, find a bike brand where you can find a bike that suits your height. And this goes in both directions. So if you're a very tall rider, then yeah, probably you will feel much safer on a 29-inch, and it will be easier for you to execute the skills. But if you're a very short rider, and if your inseam is 28-inch, then please don't ride a 29-inch bike. So these are all topics, in my opinion, as a professional coach, that find way, way, way too little room in a still rather male-dominated mountain biking world. And although I do hear it so often, it's like hashtag more women on bikes, I honestly don't feel like the industry really wants to hear what women need and want. Maybe it's just me. I mean, do get in touch and let me know what you think about this. But And also if you found this information helpful, because for me often it feels like it's like, yeah, hashtag more women on bikes, but oh no, we can't change that. That doesn't work. And oh no, yeah, let's just put a cool color on it, but not change any of the geometry for women. It's like, okay, I am exaggerating, but still, these things, I have heard them and I just don't think it's fair. Bottom line is, next time, if you hear a tall and strong rider tell you, it's easy, just rock back to get into a manual, for example. And if you're like, it's not working, then yeah, because it's not working. It's just not that easy for us shorter, lighter riders. Is it possible for us short riders to learn bunny hops, manuals, wheels, or whatever? It sure is. I can do them. I've learned them, but only with the right drills. So get a coach who adjusts skills coaching according to your height, your gender, your weight, your age, your strength, and listen to your gut. And if you want my drills proven to work, and I have to admit they are different to what's out there, then check out what I've developed in my home training courses, because I have tweaked the moves to work for different heights and especially for adults with less strength. And also, you can always supplement my courses with my personal and professional feedback, where I'll give you cues that are individualized for your age, height, flexibility, strength, because there is no one answer fits all. And I want to add something. I'm not sharing this with you to frustrate women or to reprimand men or to give you an excuse why you can't bunny hop. I'm sharing it with you to inspire you to look for the right drills and to raise awareness and tell you, I have been there, but there is a way out. Women, shorter or weaker riders, and older riders just often need a different approach. And they need an adjustment to the execution of a skill. And we have to work more skillfully for all strength-based maneuvers. So if you want to learn to bunny hop, if you want to shred the gnar, like they say, if you want to wheelie or jump, it is possible for all genders at all ages. I've already coached hundreds and hundreds of riders to nail the bunny hop and many other skills only this year. So how do you learn these skills in general? Well, you can find the answer onto how to learn skills in my last Rawcast episode, but the simple answer is you can learn them with what I teach in my videos on Instagram and YouTube. I have links down below, or you can just skip the trial and error and work with my home training courses, which are condensed versions of what I do with my in-person clients to enable them to make progress fast. It's just way, way cheaper than working with me in person. So maybe a short recap of this episode. When you're struggling, please stop comparing your weaknesses to other people's strengths. And if you want to make progress, then let's work together. Because it's my job and passion to help you learn skills faster, crash less, and have more fun out on trails by tweaking what you really need. So tweaking the exercises, the cues, the movements to you and what you need. Because yes, it's absolutely okay to be different, to need specific things. In my opinion, that's what professional coaching is about. Finding what works for you, not for the coach, or what's in the book of coaching or the Bible of coaching, if there's no such thing, but you know what I mean. So that's all I've got for you today. Hope you found it valuable. Sending much, much love to you. And I'm Roxy. This is Ride and Inspire.